Okay, guys, how you doing? I know it's all a bit mad with this whole situation, the way it's going. A couple of things. I just wanted to talk about the work that you guys have to hand in. I know we're off school at the moment. However, what we'll do is hand the work in, and I think we've settled for um, this Friday coming up. So just hand in whatever you've got. I'll mark it, and then when we're back, we'll have 15 days then to improve it. Whenever that time is that we are back. So that's 15 days resubmission time. So I think that's a good way to to tackle this. Now, what I want to put out there, guys, is that yeah, I know we have not had a few lessons because I was off self isolating last week. So there's a few things I wanted to go through with you that I would have gone through last week, but I've not been able to. So and those are the things towards the end. So three things. So you had the established industry formats. Thing after that was the functions of pre-production processes. And then lastly, you had the purposes of pre-production documentation. So I'll just go through those, starting with the established industry formats used within pre-production. So basically, we're making a film. So there are established protocols that are needed in terms of documentation, whether that be from a mood board perspective, as in creating a document that indicates the way that your scene would look, would feel, to do with the props, to do with the actors, to do with the type of lighting that you might use, even the framing of your shots, the type of shots that you would use, could all go on that mood board. You've got things like equipment list, be very important. So what you would be using, and a document that actually indicates what you would be using, maybe even when you would be using it as well. So you could incorporate that as some sort of a schedule. So you could have a schedule and equipment on the same document, essentially. Schedule is also very important. So there should be a document that indicates exactly when you plan your filming to occur, and when you plan to use certain equipment, when you plan to do your editing, when you plan to do your risk assessment, when you plan to work with your actors, maybe even cast your actors, all sorts of stuff. So these are factors that can be taken into consideration and are what we call established industry formats for what you would use. Then, of course, you've got risk assessments. So for each scene, what are the risks? What are the things that could go wrong on the camera, off the camera? All put down as a document, which can be distributed through your team. You've of course got health and safety, which is different to risk assessment, not the same thing. So health and safety is a legal regulation that you would have to conduct in order to work with your staff. And when we say staff, we're talking about actors, we're talking about people that would essentially be on your payroll, that you are, as a producer, as an executive producer of your production, you have responsibility for that. I'm trying to think what else I might have missed out. So we've got schedule, risk assessment, health and safety. You might have a props list. You might have contacts list as documentation. Things like scripts to distribute towards your actors. Of course, a storyboard as documentation would be vitally important. Shot list. I mean, these are all things that you could have and distribute to your team to make it easier for those members. Remember, for you making your scene and then combining it with the other people you're working with is vitally important that people have this information so they know what their entitlements are, what they have to do, what their jobs are. So a job list as well would be vitally important. And these would serve, and I suppose the functions they would serve is to make sure everyone knows exactly what it is that they would be doing on your production. The last point, the purposes of pre-production documentation, would be literally you going through those and indicating what areas or what is the purpose for each one of those things. And remember, guys, in order to get the high mark for this, you need to evaluate. So you need to evaluate. It says for the distinction, evaluate the extent to which pre-production requirements. Oh, it says something else. Bear with me. Processes and documentation contributes to the success of planning and delivering a specific digital media product. So you would need to evaluate basically each function of the pre-production and why it would be an essential component for what it is that you're putting out there. Now guys, this is as concise a video as I can make for what you guys have to do, and essentially if you've got any other questions, feel free to ask it in the comments, and keep a dialogue open. And if you could look at the dates that your work is due. So if I just go back to the document, your work by what I can see is due the 3rd of April. So just make sure that you hand it in on that date, whatever you've got. And then of course I'll mark it, and then you'll be able to resubmit it, and you'll have the 15-day window. Okay, take care.